Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I want to recognize Representative Barnes. I love the hat. Thank you very much getting us ready. No, I was not mocking you. That was not a mocking moment. That was a represent the state of Georgia. So I want to say thank you, Representative Barnes. If only I knew someone. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your flexibility. For those of you who do not know, the Rules Committee decided to move their meeting to 2 p.m., so we did everything we could to accommodate those who needed to be at Rules, and then also be able to, we know that certain people have interest in what's happening at Rules, so we want to make sure that folks have that opportunity. I know they're not adjourned yet, but we're going to get going. We have 8, which is quorum here. We're going to flip it around. We were going to go 177, 111, but we're going to go 111 first. Chairman Albers is ready to go. And just to give the committee an understanding about where we're at, we heard this bill last week. We had the sponsor give what I believe is a very detailed explanation of the bill. I believe the sponsor held up against all the questioning of this committee, and then we also had public comment. So there will be no public comment on 111 today. What I will do is, if there's any open questions from the committee regarding 111, as you guys know, we like to hear bills twice, so you had the week to think about it. If there's any questions, by all means, please let me know. If not, I'd like to hear the will of the committee. So you got 5 seconds to light it up. Is that Chairman Parsons? Yes. Chairman Parsons, you're recognized.
Thank you, thank you, Chairman. Trying to get my voice back here. And I apologize, I wasn't able to make the meeting last week. It's a large bill, 27 pages, I think. I guess, and apparently you've answered technical questions about the bill, but I am interested, where did this thing come from?
Thank you to my COB delegation mate. Chairman Parsons, this bill is consistent with what over 20 states have passed, and about 22 more are getting ready to have data protection and privacy for all of our personal information. We worked very closely with all the parties. This is the Technology Association of Georgia's #1 priority tag. It's endorsed by TechNet, by Salesforce, by the tech companies, but also our chambers of commerce are supporting it, to work together to make sure we balance great business environment, but Reasonable Data Privacy Protections Act, and it's also substantially similar to others. Chairman Thomas and I have been working together on all things that have to do with artificial intelligence, and this is a great compromise in order to blend both of those together.
Well, if I may ask just two quick questions. Is this the same bill? Is this the same bill you had last year?
It is, minus a couple of tiny little tweaks that the Technology Association of Georgia asked us to make that were consistent with other states.
And if I may, and here again, I apologize for not having it. This will be my last question, though.
No, please.
Please be my last question, or please go ahead.
Please proceed, Chairman Parsons.
My last question is, and I do apologize for it, but there must be somebody who's opposed to the bill. Is there anybody in industry that's been voiced opposition to the bill?
Nobody in industry. We only have people that wanted to make it much stronger, and I do not want this to become something on the level of California. Usually whatever they do, I want to do the opposite, so we think we found a much better blend in order to make something that works good for Georgia specifically. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Parsons. Not seeing anything else on the Christmas tree, what's the will of the committee? I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of Senate Bill 111 LC 590079, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. You move on the rules.
May I get you to sign the form? Thank you.
I'm happy to give you my John Hancock. Is the sponsor of 177 here? Oh, Senator Anavatari. Perfect timing, sir. Give us just one moment. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
I'm finding you from
Fantastic.
From where we're at. What, if possible, what I'd like for you to do for the committee is, if you could, Please, let's go ahead and do a review of 177. Please make sure that we're going from the same LC, if you don't mind, and then any changes that have been made to this most recent sub, if you can make a point to highlight those, I sure would appreciate it. So I'll give you the floor, sir.
Well, I appreciate it. Let me get a couple things here squared away. So basically, just a reminder, this bill deals with registration of foreign adversaries. And so basically, this was a bill that made it through the entire process, was sent to the governor, was vetoed. We've updated, made it those tweaks. Since the last meeting, we've made a couple of changes. I think there was one tweak we made related to, I think, concerns from some manufacturers, just to make sure that that part was clear in the bill, to make sure that nobody was gets accidentally swept up into, I think, the intent of what we're trying to do. I think myself and the parties probably had a little bit of disagreement, but I think we came up with some language that I think everybody agrees upon. And those are really the crux of that.
No, Senator, if you could, can you please confirm the LC number just to
I'm
make
sorry.
sure?
Yes, sir. So the one I have is 473694S.
Correct.
Thank you.
And then is it also a correct statement, sir, that the association carve-out, as I like to call what you just described, is that lines 37 through lines 41 for the purposes of the committee?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and please continue.
That's it. That's all I've got.
My apologies, but maybe I didn't hear it. Did you go through the additional language that started at line 47?
Yes, just basically just tweaking and updating the lines related to hostile foreign principle and those definitions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other changes to this sub, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
No,
We're going
thank
to
you.
Open it up for questions. Chairman Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill. I understand the underlying need for the bill. I do have a couple questions, and this was something that one of my colleagues had asked the other day, and it's the 20% threshold. I get, I just guess I don't understand why we picked 20%.
Yeah, that's not in the bill.
Oh, they got stripped out. Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Then you took care of that for me.
Sorry.
Let's see. That was actually one of my number one issues. So thank you for handling that. All right.
Thank you, Chairman
Yeah.
Thomas. The chair recognizes Representative Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Forgive me, I was not at the previous hearing, so I'm trying to catch up here. And was 3694 the bill that actually passed out of committee? Or is this different than what passed out of committee?
Well, we haven't passed a bill out of, last meeting was a hearing, and then this is the bill we're voting on.
I asked the question wrong. This is different than the bill that passed the Senate?
We've upgraded the bill that passed the Senate. So it's the changes we're talking about right now is what's modified since we passed the Senate.
And the entity that requested this bill of you is who or what? Who is advocating for this bill? What's the purpose of this bill?
Oh, okay. So we can go back. Yeah. So the purpose of this bill, going back to the first committee when we presented the bill, is around two things. It's around transparency around lobbyists representing hostile foreign nations, and second, funding related to protests and political activities related to hostile governments.
Okay, talk to me about political activities. What are you really getting at there particularly?
So I think what we've seen, across, not just across America, but in many communities is, not the disclosure of monies coming from foreign adversaries, whether it's Hamas or other related entities that are funding actors to go and create disruptions, whether it's on college campuses or in different communities.
I've received 400 emails asking me to vote against this, and I'm trying to get a grip as to...
Well, I'm sure you did. I understand.
And the opposition is free speech? Is the opposition vagueness? Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a. Here, I'll let Tom talk about it a little bit, and I'll come back.
Senator, if you don't mind, if you could have the individual introduce himself
Okay,
and
yes.
from what organization he's from.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Oliver, I helped write the bill, so
Why?
I'm just here to try to educate folks, explain it a little bit. The issue is not
Sir.
free speech.
Sir.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and ask
Chairman
one more
Jones,
time.
I'm sorry, Tom
It's okay.
Rollins, from State Shield Policy Director.
Thank you so much.
I apologize for that. The issue is not free speech. It is one of ensuring that the speech that we hear is not manufactured
Can we apply that to our national parties?
by
Could we apply that to our national parties?
to our national.
Yeah, Democrats or Republicans?
I think the key is that we do have situations in which New York Times has documented, a number of other publications documented, Washington Post, that it appears that a great deal of the protests that are going on may be well financed by foreign adversaries. And so it doesn't stop any of that. It just says if you're being financed by a hostile foreign nation, we need to know about it.
Okay, let me just drill down, maybe I can understand it better. Forgive me for my lack of understanding.
No, you,
If the
Representative All,
ACL
you have lots of understanding. I think nobody would say you don't.
Oh, well, I'm struggling here. The ACLU gets a large grant from a billionaire in Hungary.
And where?
Hungary, in
Okay.
Europe, somewhere.
That wouldn't apply. Hungary's not a foreign country. Excuse me, a hostile foreign country. I know it is a foreign country. So it applies to China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia.
Okay. So we get the ACLU of America gets a large donation from Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They have to register, ACLU has to register?
They may, yes. If they're going to do political activity, yes. And I think that's only fair. I think there is legitimate concern around the nation from both the left and the right. Let me give you an example. The former deputy chief of staff of Governor Hochul in New York was just indicted recently by the FBI because she was a Chinese agent. And the Chinese government was essentially trying to get her to make sure that she never spoke about an independent Taiwan, the governor that is, that she never referenced the Uyghurs. And so this is a human rights issue. And it is not a limitation on free speech. It is saying if you are going to be funded by a hostile foreign adversary, one that the United States government has declared to be so, then we need to know where that money is coming from. There's so much talk these days about dark money. There's a lot of dark money
In Georgia, from non-hostile.
We believe so. We don't know, and so this is part of the issue. It's one of Donald Rumsfeld's unknown unknowns. We don't know who is financing some of these protests and some of these political events.
I'm a little familiar with the New York, not very much, case. She committed a crime. She is being sanctioned in criminal activity. And what crime did she commit that's already been on the books that she is going to prison for, maybe?
I believe she was indicted under general wire fraud, failure to report taxes, that kind of thing. I don't believe she was indicted under FARA or anything.
Does anybody know? Because I think there's a lot of statutory and regulatory oversight of what we're talking about right now already, and that's kind of what I'm getting at.
I understand. I do think that until this is also a way, I think, to put on the books the message that we want to make sure that if you're receiving funds to support political activity in the state of Georgia from a hostile foreign nation, that's something you need to reveal to the public.
And in Georgia, we're asked lobbyists who don't come from hostile nations, I understand, but they're coming from interested stakeholders, and they say things that are true and not true. Do you agree with that?
So in that situation, again, there's free speech. a lot of times what we're talking about is what we're focused on here are those who really are dominated by and within a hostile foreign nation or the government of a foreign hostile nation. So certainly it also sends a message to those of us who might be down at the Capitol advocating, or those of you who are being advocated to. Let's be careful about where this money is coming from, because we have seen that some of the hostile foreign money has in fact corrupted otherwise well-meaning people.
I'm familiar with hostile, incorrect, misleading information corrupting the voters. I'm familiar with that. Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I'm just trying to play catch-up and understand the issues.
No, Representative Oliver, I think we appreciate the deep dive, and thank you very much for your questions. The chair recognizes Chairman Parsons.
Thank you, Chairman. I think previous questions were.
Oh, is 25 not on?
I think the previous questions kind of going. Basically, what we're doing is asking people to have to identify when they register whether they are working on behalf of one of these countries. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's registering with the Ethics Commission. Is that correct? No? Who is the commission? In the very back when it talks about the penalty, it says the commission.
Yeah, so you register with the Ethics Commission, penalties from the Attorney General's office.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it seems like it kind of makes sense, but don't you think, I mean, if people want to get this money in, they're going to get it in. I mean, that would be almost ridiculous to think this was going to keep.
That's correct, Representative. And all I'll say is, I mean, whether we know it's here or not, I think it's beside the point. I think it's Georgia being proactive, knowing the foreign threats that exist, making sure that those organizations are people representing, organizations, connected companies to foreign adversaries. There's a mechanism that transparency is given to the citizens, in the nature that we live in. This is, the world in Georgia in 2025 is very differently than 2020, 2015, with all the cyber threats and everything else kind of going on in the world. So I think Georgia being proactive and leading the nation in doing this, I don't know what the bad side of that is. If we were sitting here debating a campaign finance law or something else, I think all of us in this room would probably want to see greater transparency of where money's coming from and going in the bigger picture.
If I may, just one more. I mean, here again, I don't want to support the bill, but it just seems like in the way everything is interconnected today, you've got these particular specific nations listed here, and North Korea sells parts to Germany to produce their cars. I mean, there's all kinds of interconnections between these countries and other countries that we do business with. It just seems like I think it's a good idea. I just don't think it's going to amount to anything. Is that not true?
No, I would respectfully disagree.
Senator, I want to go ahead and clarify Chairman Parsons' question.
Okay.
As I read the bill, you're expecting there to be a registration with the Ethics Commission, which is chaired by Mr. Amati. Is that a accurate statement?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because Chairman Parsons said, I just want to make sure that was clear for the committee.
I appreciate that, because that wasn't the
Right.
answer I understood.
My apologies. If I
No worries.
misunderstood
I'm just trying to follow all the dialogue. Just want to make sure the committee
That's why you're the
has-
chairman.
I don't know why I'm the chairman. Yeah, they flipped a coin and they said Todd. All right. Representative Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple questions. Senator, last time you were here, I talked about line 42, where you list hostile foreign country means Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and so on. I'm still curious as to why you're not referring to the Department of Defense list of hostile nations versus just spelling it out here.
Yeah, I think last time I was here, thank you for the question, Representative. I think we talked about if that's an update that the committee wants to make or whatnot. But these countries listed, and there's probably one or two more, like Venezuela, we could add to this list. It's basically the same list. So I think I'll leave that up to the chairman of the committee what they want to do you all want to do with that.
Senator, thank you. And Representative Tran, I would refer us to Leg Council, but I know traditionally in my time here at the General Assembly, Leg Council has been hesitant to put federal statute into our statute, but rather they'd rather us list it. So it doesn't happen all the time, but again, I know when I wanted to get something done this year, and I was referencing a federal statute around vertiports, if you recall, and that I was told, no, we don't want to put the federal statute in. We just want to go ahead and put the actual language in. I said, oh, okay. But again, have Lake Council. If you want to go speak with Lake Council, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And
Chairman.
May I have one more question?
Is it all?
Go ahead.
So have we listed all the ones that are in federal? Or is it just four?
I don't have the list in front of me.
Okay, lead council, is this all the foreign agents?
I'm sorry, I can't opine on the spot as to whether or not this is an exhaustive list.
So we haven't looked at the federal? Is that what I'm understanding?
As I sit here right now, I can't tell you whether or not this is an exhaustive list, but I'm happy to look into that if you'd like, and I can get you an answer.
I think that's what the senators
Here,
referring to.
we'll pull it up for the legal team here, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, if we could, Chairman Prince, I want to go ahead and pause that. Also, no, that's fine. Just for the matter of efficiency, we'll get back to Representative Tran and get that list, or he can bring it up himself. I'm going to recognize Chairman Thomas, please.
Yeah, I guess, does this require someone the way I appreciate the help on this. Does it require somebody to register 2 times? One time as a lobbyist and again as a foreign agent? That's why I'm getting confused. Is that what it's?
No, go ahead.
I know.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, that's why I keep asking about, I'd like to ask again about what is the federal law about registration that criminalized the activity of the governor's press staff person, and there have to be multiple registrations. That's where I'd like some clarification.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one that's a little confused about it. It just would help out if it's fine. I just need to know, or I'm just trying to understand the bill.
So, Chairman Thomas, if I'm understanding your question, I can't speak for the senator. You're first asking if you are in fact required to register. The first registration, we're all agreeing, goes to the Ethics Commission.
It goes to the Ethics Commission.
Okay, and then
which I think you have to do anyway.
Well, you have to register as a lobbyist,
Right.
And I can't speak for how they do that, but I've
Yeah.
seen the list before.
Well, I
But
think we
they
have
first
to-
register as a lobbyist, and then I'm assuming underneath this statute. But if you have an informed answer, I'll take it. If not, Executive Director Amati's in the audience. We can ask him to come up.
Yeah, I mean, we can ask the director too, but I think basically all this bill is doing is if you're representing an interest on behalf of one of these foreign adversaries, you're required to register. If you're coming over here and you're doing your business, and for example, you represent the United Kingdom, they're not on this list. So there's no action for you to take.
Okay, because
And the director may have, better answer than me, but.
But for clarity, if that person with the UK is lobbying inside of these walls, they do have to register, right?
Right.
So, right.
They follow state
But
laws.
they don't have to then
Correct.
follow underneath
That
this
is correct.
particular principle.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind if we had?
No, absolutely not. I hate to do this to you, but this is kind of like, come on down. You're the next contestant and the price is right. If you could sit next to the senator, please, Mr. Amati.
I'm sure you didn't expect that to happen today.
And Mr. Amati, I know we all know you, but for the folks watching, can you please give us your name and your title?
Yeah. Hey, Jason. David Amati, head of the State Ethics Commission. I've run the Ethics Commission for, I think this is going on my 7th year now.
Okay, thank you. And Chairman Thomas, I'm going to recognize you. If you could, please opine, and Representative Oliver, I'm going to keep your mic open just in case.
I guess it would be helpful if you could talk a little bit through the process of just a standard lobbyist, not a foreign adversary, just a standard lobbyist, how that registration process works.
Yeah, it's an online process. There's a website we have. They go in, they register, they disclose who they're lobbying on behalf of, what corporation, what entity, and in the actual lobbyist reports they disclose, they'll list what bill is they're lobbying, for and in support of, or against.
Mr. Money, you are an expert, so I'm going to ask you a question I'm really curious about. Dark money is legal. Do you support what is the specific statute or case that says dark money is legal? And do you support Citizens United as a policy of this country?
So,
Well, if you don't mind, Representative Oliver, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of a chairman's privilege. Respectfully to Mr. Amati, we didn't ask him to come up here as a constitutional expert. His opinion on the case is his opinion. I'm happy with questions regarding the bill that we're discussing, but not Mr. Amati's opinion on a SCOTUS opinion.
I'll withdraw my question
thank you.
about Citizens United, but we are talking about transparency and needing to know who people are doing what. But I am confused about the suggestion that this is going to help on the dark money issue, because I don't really understand what the federal registration is about dark money or money coming in internationally, because I thought that was already illegal.
Representative, do you mind giving me just a little bit more time to work through the process before we get into that detail? I'd like to have a little bit more of a 50,000-foot level before we dive it specifically in, if that's okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy for you to turn off my mic at this point.
I was hoping we would play nice in the
friendly,
sandbox.
very friendly way.
Yeah, okay. All right, we're going to not play nice in the, no, I'm just kidding.
No, it's definitely nice. But it would really help me if you kind of talk through a little bit of the registration process, and obviously you may have some follow-up questions.
yeah, so currently for a registered lobbyist, and they have to do this every year, it terminates at the end of the year, or they have to renew their registration. They'll go onto the website, they'll renew, they'll register for the first time, whatever the case may be. They'll list the corporate entities that are paying them to lobby on their behalf. And when they file those disclosure reports, they'll list the specific legislation they're either opposing or supporting, and the legislators that, if it was a dinner that they took to dinner or what have you.
Right. So when you say on lobbying on behalf of corporations, that could be a limited liability corporation,
Sure.
correct? So there's really no way to know for sure who owns that limited liability corporation. They don't have to, me as an LLC, I don't have to disclose who my owners are.
I think that's a fair statement.
So I guess how would you get into an enforcement mechanism on this?
It's a good question. I don't know that I have the answer to that right now.
To be fair, I don't tell. Usually criminals don't go out and say, "Hey, I'm perpetrating a crime." So it's really not really probably not a fair question. I think it sounds like LLCs would need to hold themselves accountable, just like everybody else.
Sure, and if information came to our attention that there was. Making a few assumptions, let's say this fair legislation goes into effect. If information comes to our office that there is an entity not registered, we do have investigative tools as it is. We do have subpoena power. So I suppose to answer your question, whatever, and it's hard to give a general answer on a fact-specific case.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
a hypothetical,
I apologize about
we would follow that line of investigative tools that we have sort of based on what facts are in front of us, I guess.
Okay, and that really answers my question. I think the key here is just putting a mechanism in place that has dark money, maybe that's supporting these certain corporations that don't necessarily have to disclose who owns them, and bringing that attention. That actually helps me out a lot. So thank you, and I'm sorry to call you up here, but I appreciate it.
It happens.
Director Amati, if you could just hold just in case, because I have several more questions, and I don't know if you're going to be the SME that the senator is going to be looking to. So, Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a few questions, if I may. First, just to back out a little bit, I know you've mentioned the importance of transparency, line 23, and how that's important. This legislation would still allow agents of hostile actors to lobby in Georgia. Is that correct? They just have to register?
Are you at Sam?
To either yourself or Mr. Armando.
So you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
So I'm trying to get a better understanding of the tie between transparency and national security, right?
Correct.
Now, this legislation is saying that hostile agents of or actors of foreign agents, hostile foreign countries, they simply have to register. Is that correct? They can still lobby.
So right now, it would say that they would have to register. I think the preference to many of us is that they do not lobby if they're found to be the case. I think that's a detriment. That would be my position, but I'm at the will of your committee.
I mean, I think the concern is, I'm having a difficult time finding the link between transparency and national security if the intent is to diminish the influence of hostile foreign actors with respect to any business in Georgia.
Correct.
And so just as a starting point, again, I think I wouldn't necessarily even, my understanding of the bill is that it's not necessarily transparency that it would provide for, given how many people this could potentially capture, this would be more along the lines of surveillance, potentially with respect to chilling speech. Now, I've also, along those lines, I know that Russia and China, they have introduced similar pieces of legislation that require actors of foreign agents, as they define, to register, for them to then monitor, investigate, and then chill. And so given the broad implications of how this legislation is currently drafted and who it may bring together, I'm quite concerned if we proceed with this and that we are following the models of authoritarian regimes with respect to surveillance as opposed to transparency that would result in any meaningful security for the state, especially as, Mr. Ahmadi, with respect to enforcement, what is the State Ethics Commission going to do?
Well, I think respectfully, Representative, if I'm one of these countries, let's pick maybe the Islamic Republic of Iran, and currently what's going on in terms of transparency or lobbying, if there are entities, accepting money where we know, Houthis, pirates, and others are basically doing damage against the United States or U.S. allies, I think in terms of chilling speech, I think if they're here in America and that's what's going on, I don't know what chilling speech or right to the First Amendment they would have in the first place. So I think we're talking about two different things.
Last comment I'd just make real quickly is, based on how this is drafted, this would require a church or a missionary to China to be registered as a hostile foreign actor, in which, again, the harm caused by this surveillance legislation that's modeled after authoritarian regimes is quite concerning, to say the least.
Yeah, well, I would respectfully disagree. I think some of the foreign adversaries we've seen on here, and even some countries that maybe are not yet designated by the federal government, such as Lebanon or other countries, and what they're doing right now, I think in terms of them funding protests on college campuses and things like that, that's not chilling speech. I mean, I think that's breaking American law.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to make a motion to table this bill at this time.
Second.
A motion to table is not debatable.
I remember Masons, unlike Roberts. All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All against? Let's go division. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Patrick, if you could be the official counter. All opposed, right hand, please. The motion carries. Senator.
Second.
That motion I don't have to necessarily recognize. You can turn your mic back on, but I still won't recognize it. What I'd like to do is, the posture is, the bill is tabled, okay? To come off the table, it'll take a motion to take it off the table. But look, we're on what day are we on? 30, going into 36, I think. And what I'd like to do, I have two lights on. I'd like to at least get the questions done. I have one light on. I'd like to get the one last question done, and then I'll entertain that motion. But I would like to get that question done. Is there any objections to that? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. But there's no reason, in my opinion, we have convened, we're here in good faith. Let's have the bill sponsor answer this last question, and then I'll entertain that motion. Oh, okay, we waived it. I now will entertain the motion to adjourn. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.